the sadder game that the NDC is putting up, I think that more, institutions have to be created to make sure that decentralization works. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nanado, the question is how? What strategies would you use to advance the decentralization agenda in your tenure?
Thank you very much, Kojo. Yet another very important question for the future of our country. My understanding about decentralization is that we're talking about the devolution of power. We're talking about moving out of the center here in Accra, the institutions that can best be dealt with at the local and the district level. Let me give you an example. Education and health are matters that are best addressed at the local level. We want to give a situation whereby our district assemblies have the capacity to control the educational institutions in their areas as well as the health institutions in their areas. That is the concept of the devolution, that power is at the local level for them to be able to handle critical local issues. So the whole process of enhancing the capacity of the district assemblies, both in terms of the quality of the people who are working there and their own remit, is critical to the process of devolution and of decentralization. So that would be the first. Recognizing that it is difficult for anybody to say who has power to give it up easily. But that those of us who are at the center, God willing, if we have the opportunity, will recognize that the development of our country requires this process of devolution, and that therefore it is in the interest of our country to move the consideration of some of these basic fundamental issues for treatment at the local level, at the district level. That will be a very, very critical part of the strategy that we're going to have for decentralization and devolution. Clearly, the process of also giving the district assemblies the wherewithal in terms of the quality of people who are there is also going to be extremely important. I am for using the facilities of the local government school here in a much more dramatic and rapid manner than we have seen so far, to be able to turn out the people that can man our district assembly administrations and thereby take ownership of these critical institutions that we need to have in our education as well as in our health structure. So you have a combination of, first of all, the determination, the commitment to the decentralization process. I think that is, to a large extent, is what has been lacking. Once people speak of decentralization when they're in office, when they're in opposition, but when they get into office and they recognize that they're going to have to cede their power, they tend to then become slow and shuffle their feet. So we have to have the commitment. And then we have to have the recognition that we need to do a great deal to enhance the capability of the local government institutions that we have at the moment to be able to handle the issues of decentralization.
Thank you. Mr. President, the question is how? What strategies would you use?
Often the question is a bit awkward for me because what will you do? I am doing already. I've been chairman of the Decentralization Oversight Committee over the last 4 years, and we've done phenomenal. I disagree with you when you say we haven't achieved much. We have. Decentralization has 3 steps. It's got political, it's got administrative, it's got financial. We've done much with political. Indeed, other countries have come to study our district assemblies concept, and so we've made phenomenal progress with that. The districts are taking decisions of their own on what they want to do, what their development projects is, and so they've been empowered enough to be able to do so. Administrative, we had a problem of transferring the staff of the civil service to the local government service, which by God's grace we have achieved. It was a very difficult process. We had to educate the workers because of the transfer from civil service to local government service. They were scared about what was going to happen to them. Last year, we had a symbolic transfer of the staff. The head of civil service handed over the staff to the local government service. We're recruiting additional 2,600 staff to service the new districts that we have created. Then you have financial. Financial is where you empower the districts with the resources to be able to determine what they want to do themselves, hire their own staff, pay them themselves, rather than have it done at the center. Currently, we have a centralized payroll, which is at the Accountant General's Department. And for the first time, what we did was we introduced composite budgeting, because composite budgeting is what takes care of equipping the district assemblies to be able to manage their own finances. One of the things we realized was the education sector and the health sector, which are two critical sectors that must be in the decentralized departments, were taken out by the previous administration. We have put them back in. And that is why teachers and nurses and other people would eventually have their payments made at the district level, and it will be easy to know if a teacher is at post or he's not at post, because the controller and accountant general sits here, the head of the Ghana Education sits here. If a teacher doesn't go to school, they don't know it. But at the district level, the district chief executive is more likely to know if a teacher is not coming to school or a nurse is not at post than the current system that we have. So we are doing it already. One of the things we're doing is to increase performance by using the District Development Fund. Based on the performance of the district assembly, you get more of the DDF financing. So this is to encourage them to increase their performance. Then aside from that, we have the urban development grants. Based on the performance of the urban metropolitan assemblies, we give them more grants. But there are a few outstanding things to do with the politics of it, election of DCs. I think that we need to trust our people that they can make the right choices for themselves. Like Nanado said, it is tempting to keep a control of the DCs when you're in government. And I remember when his government was coming, they said they were going to do election of DCs, they didn't. I am committed to moving that step. It's in the Constitutional Review Committee's report, and I will enforce it.
Thank you. Dr. Sakara.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that your question is on strategy, because the individual actions will virtually be the same. The question is the strategy. And you don't kill a snake by hitting it a little bit from the tail all the way to the head. You hit it on the head. The reason decentralization has taken so long is because simply central government does not want to give up the power. So it has a long, drawn-out process of how we relinquish it bit by bit, etc. Our strategy will be fundamentally different. First, we will have the strongest public sector reform that you have seen that will remove a chunk of the capacity at the national level and put it at the district level. But before that, we will rethink the entire decentralization process, because right now we have long gone past the point at which decentralization will be efficient with 213 districts. What was the purpose of decentralization in the first place? It was to be a focal point for government. What we now have is creation of districts for political gerrymandering. This confusion between constituencies and districts needs to be removed once and for all. And we need to re-aggregate districts to a size that's economic enough for you to have a tax base to make them viable. That will reduce the numbers and ensure also that when we allocate personnel to that level, there will be insufficient quantity because the capacity already exists. It's a matter of reallocation. The second thing is the political decentralization, which needs to be effected immediately. This will ensure that district chief executives who are elected over 3 to 4 constituencies can obviously not be the same caliber as members of parliament, because they will have a much bigger mandate. And these are the people you will entrust the local government to. And you will empower the communities to be able to engage with them, keep track of the development projects that are supposed to happen, and when they don't happen, use the mechanisms at their disposal to give the right information for action to be taken. What we must know ultimately is that decentralization is a reallocation of resources so that everybody gets their fair share. This is the primary purpose, and to bring development within the power of the communities themselves. We need a strategy that refocuses on the purpose and brings us back from where we are now to where we need to be. And I must say that my two colleagues in the NDC and MPP have had more than enough time to do it. So give CPP a chance to do it. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for the strategies that you have shared with us. We're going to take a break at this time. We'll be back in 10 minutes for the second round. Mr. Aga, you have a rebuttal? Yes. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Have we finished one round?
No, it's left. I think that let's go back to the powers. The last time I made mention of separating economic power from political power. With regards to decentralization, I believe if government or the nation is able to review our constitution to separate economic power from political power, the decentralization will be more effective in all the sectors of this country. Because you realize that all the powers of government take controls of every situation in every district. Now, it is government who decide which particular constituency must be developed or not. But when we decentralize and change and move political power from economic power, now economists and economic planners will now have a long-term development policy or plan for each district, irrespective of which political power or party is in power. We will then know that if Boku is supposed to be developed for the next 20 years, and this is the plan, no matter which government is in power, we are not worried. Funds will be allocated to each district, and district executives will be elected among themselves, not appointed by government, where the DCE gives orders to the assemblymen and to other executives that are elected by the committee of the district. Now you see there are contradictions, because if your government is not in power, that will mean that that particular district will not be developed the way we want it. But if we separate them, whether the NDC government is in power or the MPP government is in power, development process will continue. Development process.
Go ahead, sir.
I need 10 seconds to finish up.
Go ahead, finish up, sir.
The NDC and the MPP has failed, so they are worried that we want to take the power from them. So, the development process will continue without fear or favor. Then nobody will be afraid of losing his job. Nobody thinks that the NDC is in power, so if I do not perform and NDC comes, they will take me out of government.
Okay.
Now, thank you.
Your time is up. I thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for your strategies. We're going to take a break at this moment. We'll return in 10 minutes for the second round. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you need a bottle of water, please go to the back of the auditorium. There's a bar with bottles of water for you. We have 5 minutes to return to our seats to continue the debate. Thank you.
When you drink, it means we need a makeup artist to come help you because you obviously sweat because of the light. It will generate it. Just a little. But it's okay.
Because sometimes if you are not sure and you begin raising your voice, you just put X.
It's very clear. It's very clear on it. If it's bad, I'll say it. It's very clear on it. You see, the more they take. You see, we don't all have one ear. Trust me. The thing that people complain about might not be fathers to complain about. So let's keep the standards for television. It's very clear on air, and I've been down here. It's very clear here. So please. Now don't raise. If you raise it and you bring it down, you worry the sound engineer, and that's why you hear that. No, don't worry. These things will come, and we just find with a reason. It's a concern, but no. The truth is that it's not bad. It's not bad. But for instance, where challenge, let's say because of the money.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 minutes to return for the continuation of the debate. We have 3 minutes to return to our seats for the continuation of the debate. Thank you.
You can see me. There's too much light. There's too much light.
Good evening. I hope I can talk to you without you being accused of being accused. Why did the opening statement disappear?
Boss.
Kindly return to your seats, ladies and gentlemen. We have 2 minutes to go back on air. 2 minutes. Kindly return to your seats, ladies and gentlemen. We're back on air in 2 minutes.
Okay. Now MC will take over. MC will take over, and he'll cue you. He'll just go through the rules quickly and cue you. So when he cues, then we take over from here.
Ladies and gentlemen, kindly return to your seats. We are back on air in 1 minute. Please return to your seats. We are back on air in 1 minute. Thank you.
With just about a minute and 10 seconds to go, I run through just about 4 of our major rules we want you to observe in this second round of tonight's debate. There should be no applause or noise making of approval or disapproval during the entire debate, except at the end of each round. And all mobile phones should be turned off at this moment. At no time should the audience take photographs, as this will affect the quality of lighting in the hall. The security can ask persons who do not conform to these rules to leave the hall. Now I hand over to our moderators for tonight's debate.
Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can hear me more clearly now. All right, thank you. And welcome to our distinguished candidates. We now move to the second part of our discussions, and this time we are focusing on our natural resources. And the question is this, beginning with CPP. What would you do as president to ensure that Ghana gets the best deal from its gas resources?
First and foremost, we must recognize that the resolution on permanent sovereignty over national wealth and resources passed by the United Nations in 1962 gives every nation control over its resources. However, in the kind of contracts that we have been writing with foreign investors, we have not asserted this claim to its fullest. It appears as if we are rather borrowing those natural resources. I believe that we must assert our ownership over those resources. And we will do this first by ensuring that we use the existing opportunity of the oil income to gather sufficient capital resources to have very different kinds of contracts in the subsequent oil fields that we explore. Those will focus on ensuring that we build the technical capacity, the knowledge gap, we bridge it to be able to exploit our resources fully onshore. It will also ensure that we process that oil onshore with all the ancillary industries associated with it. We will also ensure that the local content law, which has not yet been passed, is passed. In fact, the petroleum and exploration and petroleum law that governs the industry is still also not passed. These are measures that we would implement with a sense of urgency, because you cannot be exploring an industry without the framework to govern that industry. Setting up the Petroleum Commission as an institution without the instruments for it to carry out its duties and functions is not sufficient. And I believe that we would ensure the subsequent bills are passed quickly. We also need to better audit the costs of exploration to ensure that we know the revenue that is coming in from it, right at source, to be able to determine whether or not we are getting our fair share. We need to improve the monitoring of output by ensuring that our own people are put in place with mechanisms that are effective to measure those outputs. We need to view that natural resource as an inheritance of the future generation yet unborn, and manage it with the responsibility that a responsible government should have to ensure that our own resources benefit our own people. We need also to improve the capacity of our local entrepreneurs to engage.
Thank you very much. We now move on to PNC. Mr. Yariga. Excuse me, can you turn on your mic?
The recent discovery of oil and gas in commercial quantities was greeted with joy and enthusiasm by Ghanaians, hoping that their living condition will change. Unfortunately, 3 years after oil production, nothing has changed. This is because the production agreement entered into with the oil companies does not favor Ghana and Ghanaians. Under the agreement, Ghana received only 13% of oil produced, and out of this 13%, 3 goes to 2 individuals, leaving the nation with just 10. This is robbery, corruption. This is outrageous and unacceptable. When I become the president, I will review all agreements in respect of oil production to favor Ghanaians. Let nobody tell me that it cannot be done. President Rawlings reviewed the VALCO agreement to favor Ghanaians in 1980s. I will draw inspiration and experience from him and review all agreements on oil production to favor Ghanaians. I will also expand the exploration of oil and gas to cover other coastal areas and the Baltic bays with discoveries of oil that have been made. The aim of this expansion program is to increase production of oil and gas to generate more revenue. I will also increase local businesses and ensure that communities in the catchment areas benefit more from the oil find. Industries and agriculture will also be given a boost from the oil production. The level of revenue we currently get from our oil resources are too low. We are not tracking the amount of oil that we are generating and are being shortchanged. The oil resources we have can make this country a real middle income in 5 to 10 years. The oil revenue or resources we have can replace all the donor support that we go out to beg for all the times. And if we manage them properly, we will not go out to borrow monies from other countries because the oil is here. But the last time at the IEA, I said it, that it is not with us. We are only a country that we call we have oil, but the oil is in the hands of the foreigners. And we believe if we as leaders cannot retrieve in the national anthem, we pledge to uphold and defend the nation, but yet we have sold it out to the people, leaving the nation with nothing.
Thank you very much. We now move on for a response from the NPP, Nana Akufo-Addo.
Madam, once again, thank you on this most critical of subjects. I think it's important that all of us recognize that the situation before we found oil is substantially different from the situation after we have found oil. The agreements that were made to entice people to bring their capital to find the oil were at a time when the oil wasn't clear whether we had oil or not. Today, as a result of the find, we know that our shores have the hydrocarbon resources that will allow us to be able now to take a very much more forward position. So the mere fact that the original agreements tended to be favoring the investor, in my view, was the correct strategy. We needed that investor to come, make the investment, and it was done, and the result of it was the Jubilee fields were discovered under Kufuor's watch. Question number 2, how do we treat this new find? Are we going to treat the new oil and gas resources like we have treated our other natural resources? We continue to export them in their raw form and are happy with that? The revenues from the export of the oil? No. Our view is that the discoveries and the revenues that are coming from it give us an opportunity to use it to transform our economy and transform our nation. And therefore, the whole process of industrialization and value addition will be an integral part of how we deal with the revenues and the resources that we now have. Thirdly, we are not going to be able to get the best value from these if critical decisions, for one reason or another, internecine struggles within the ruling party, are delayed. We saw the delay over the linkage of our gas resources to the gas plant. largely because for years there was a tug of war as to who should be responsible for it. Mercifully, that has now been resolved, many years too late, but better later than never. Fourthly, clearly the most equitable manner in which our nation and our people will benefit from the oil revenues is to ensure that they are used on the two most critical aspects of our national life, our education and our health care. If at the time when the oil resources run out of Ghana, we have a transformed Ghanaian population, educated, which has access to good health care, we now have the basis to sustain the development of our nation, not for 1 year, not for 2 years, but for generations to come. Our commitment to free secondary education is not about winning the next election. It's about preparing the country for the next generation.
Thank you so much. We now move on to NDC.
Thank you very much. I'll start by saluting the PNDC government and the GNPC. The GNPC was formed by the PNDC, and I think that step at the time is what has brought us where we are today. The GNPC has done a phenomenal job over time to discover the initial oil wells that we found and the recent discoveries that we have made. Under President Kufuor's watch, Jubilee was found, and since then, most people don't know it. Since 2009, under President Atamil's watch, 16 new discoveries have been made, and that's phenomenal. And so it is important that, one, we strengthen negotiation of what we get as a country out of our oil resource, but most importantly, put in place the legislative environment that makes the industry predictable and attractive to investors who have the technology and the capital to put into it. And again, this question often is a bit inconveniencing to me. It says, what will you do? We are doing already. I am doing already. We have put in the legislative framework. We passed the Petroleum Revenue Management Bill. We passed the bill that set up the Petroleum Commission. We have approved in Cabinet the Exploration and Production Bill. It's currently awaiting parliamentary approval. And I'll appeal to our members of parliament to look at it quickly and let it pass so that we can have that bill in place. Because then that covers the various steps of the oil industry. That is production. Then you have regulation, which is the Petroleum Commission. Then you have how revenues are used, revenue management, which is the Petroleum Revenue Management. The last piece of legislation, which is still undergoing stakeholder consultation, is the Local Content Bill, to increase the capacity of Ghanaians to be able to benefit and participate in the oil and gas industry. It doesn't pay to have such a God-blessed resource and just have foreigners come and take it away without any benefit to your people. And so we're going to pass the Local Content Bill to justify and reserve some aspects of the oil industry to Ghanaians, and one, to encourage the foreign companies that are involved in oil exploration and production to engage Ghanaians to work for them. But all in all, it is how we establish the base that utilizes this oil and gas to propel Ghana's development forward. And we have elaborate plans to do that. We are processing, putting in the gas pipelines, putting in the processing plants, which will supply gas to our thermal production. We all have seen what has happened with the West African gas line when we lost gas from Nigeria. It behoves on us to have our own supply of gas so that we will not fall into this situation again in the future. But we have put in place a blueprint for the midstream and downstream petroleum industry, and that is going to change the face of this country. It's going to create jobs. It's going to provide the needed investment and capital that we need to build our infrastructure and move this nation to the next level.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Gentlemen, we're still talking about natural resources, science and technology. I want to ask a question about science and technology. I will start with you, Mr. Hassan Ayariga. And you know, science and technology is at the core of development the world over. Question, what are your plans to place science and technology at the core of Ghana's economic development?
To be very honest, we don't hear you very well from this side.
Let me take the question again. Science and technology is at the core of development the world over. The question is, what are your plans to place science and technology at the core of Ghana's economic development?
Thank you now. Thank you very much. I believe my brother or my father, Nana, has been talking about the free, please, thank you. Has been talking about the free educational senior high school system. Now, let's not be worried about the free senior high school, but let us be worried about the quality of education that we want to deliver to our people. Now, I think that what we need to do is to change the curriculum of education to start with science and technology. The University of Science and Technology in Kumasi is there to provide sciences and equip our students on technological-based subjects. Today, if you go to the University of Science and Technology, even the lift in the building is spoiled. And they are responsible for such courses. Now, the question is, how do we get these schools to do or to give proper education regarding science and technology? The last time I made mention that let's change and create and be more creative in the kind of courses that we give to our students so that they can be more technological and innovative and creative. So that at the end of the day, Ghana will produce graduates that are not avoidable, but absorbable. In that sense, we are able to say in our national development policy, we need to have 200,000 students that will graduate from the University of Science and Tech doing sciences. The gentleman we call Asafo Kantanka has been able to produce and manufacture cars in Ghana. Both the MPP and the NDC government have not been able to resource this gentleman to be able to employ more students and teach them the knowledge that he has regarding science and technology. At least, it doesn't mean that you must come from the school before you can teach technology. Some people have it from wisdom and knowledge, but they are not students. Go to magazine. We have many students, many people there that can manufacture and build cars, but because they are not in the classroom, we have ignored them. So our government will re-emphasize and change the curriculum of education rather than free, and make sure that we are more creative and innovative in delivering our educational sector and sciences. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ayaga. Nana Akufo-Addo.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kojo. Question after question tells us about the significance of this debate and the importance of these questions to our future. I think we have to start at the basic. First of all, we need to look again at the curricula we have, both at the primary and the secondary level, and infuse those curricula with a greater emphasis on science and technology, training, and knowledge. That's the first thing. The second, we need the teachers that will teach our children about science and technology. The initiative that Kufuor began, that of the 38 training colleges of education we have in our country, 15 of them were specifically dedicated to the teaching, the output of teachers mired in science and technology, is one that I will build on, create more and expand the capacity of our training colleges to produce teachers in science and technology. Thirdly, go around the schools, and I've been doing that the last 2.5 years. Everywhere I go, I try to visit a school to see for myself what's on the ground. Virtually all of them have no laboratory equipment to speak of. How are you going to develop science and technology in our schools if the schools themselves are bereft of the basic equipments that will introduce people to science and technology? So that's clearly a major gap that we need to fill, and fill urgently. Again, our tertiary institutions, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, the University of Mines and Allied Technology in Takwa, are the institutions that are meant to focus on producing the engineers and the scientists and the technologists that we need. I believe there's a great need for us to refocus these institutions on this core mandate of producing engineers and technologists. My understanding was that the original vision of KNUST was to be the Ghanaian equivalent of MIT. We need to go back there. And beyond it all, the commitment that we have to make to get away from the raw material exporting economy to an industrial value-adding economy that automatically raises the profile of science and technology in our country and the need for us to have the institutions that can support them. So we're talking about a holistic presentation of a solution involving training, involving the development.
Thank you. Let me go to the President. Mr. President, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Nobody doubts what the role of science and technology is in development. If you look at every single case of countries that have moved to the next level, it has been on the wings of science and technology. And so it means the investments that we do in this area are crucial to our forward movement. Let me start. First, there was a confusion as to where to put the overall oversight of science and technology. And under the previous administration, I remember at one time it was under education, at another time it was under some other ministry, and so you couldn't really, tell where it belonged. Under our government, we found it a permanent home, and as long as I remain president, it will remain in that home, and that is the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. I think there's a natural linkage between, those areas, and it makes it better able to be supervised. And then apart from that, we had started the implementation of a science and technology policy, which was abandoned after 2000. We came and re-engaged with the science and technology policy and have passed it and are implementing it. Out of that flows several interventions, which again, the question is, what will you do? And I'll say we are doing, in rolling out various interventions to promote science and technology. One of them has been a long-standing one, which was introduced by the first NDC government, the previous NDC government, the PNDC, which is the Science, Technology and Mathematics Clinics for Girls. And that clinic has been phenomenal in terms of encouraging girls to go for subjects that previously you find that they had an aversion for. Many more girls are going into science, technology, and mathematics because of that clinic, and we have continued it for them, and I think that is a good policy. Aside from that, flowing out of the policy again, we held the first ever Ghana Science Congress, and I think scientists and technologists were all very happy about this. There were exhibitions, they showed their products and all that, and we selected the Scientist of the Year, and he was giving a car, and I think that has been motivational for people in that sector, and we'll continue to do that. One of our flagship programs has been the Master's Program, which gives scholarships to students who are willing to study science, technology, and mathematics. We know that a lot of our students go for the softer subjects in humanities, and so the Master's Program has given out 5,000 scholarships to young people to study science and technology. And in the term of office that is coming up for me, I'm going to increase that to 10,000 scholarships for students who are willing to go into the area of science, technology, and mathematics, especially for girls. And so we're going to do that. Aside from that, we've started the local assembly of laptops, and we're going to expand it. We're also distributing laptops, 66,000 distributed already, and under the next term of government, I have said in our manifesto, we'll distribute 400,000 laptops to students across the country.
Okay, Dr. Sakara, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. The science and technology gap is directly reflected in the poverty gap. If we do not have science and technology driving the economy, then you will find that we are not able to close the income generation and the other measures that we need to take to improve people's lives. Therefore, we need a broad spectrum of interventions from education to investment in industry, as well as R&D, research and development. What we would do in the education section is ensure that we give the right emphasis to technical and vocational training and give it the pride that it deserves, because it is looked down on in our communities. Therefore, when people are not able to pass the BECE exam, we have said as part of our free education policy that we will establish district opportunity industrialization centers where they can improve their aptitudes in the technical areas whilst continuing with reading, writing, and arithmetic. So by the time they're 18 or pass out of that school, they have the same level of proficiency as people who have gone to secondary school. That, we believe, is the first step to promoting science and technology. The second thing is to make our polytechnics more robust by ensuring that you can graduate from those OICs into polytechnics to do community college degrees in technical areas. Lastly, we will also ensure that the appropriate training of graduates themselves is situated within industrial research and development. To move the ideas from the shelf to the factories, we will establish a 10 million CD research and development fund for innovations. That will ensure that all the innovations we have stacked up in CSIR don't just stay on the shelves, but we have a way of conveying them into industry. Ultimately, knowledge is demand-driven. If we are not making direct investments to grow industries in strategic areas where we have resources and comparative advantage, agriculture, the petroleum industry, fertilizer industry, also the light manufacturing, we will not be having the demand pool to bring knowledge and technology into the commercial sector. Therefore, we must make those investments as well as ensure that we continue a steady stream of people who can graduate from one level to the other. For us to be able to maintain those investments, we need to negotiate for markets for our light industry with people who we are dealing with in resources. Thank you.
Thank you also very much. Now we move to the final question on natural resources. And I begin with the NPP, Nana Akufo-Addo. Generally speaking, our discussions on and our plans regarding natural resources leave out the marine resources. We would like to hear from you your ideas on how to expand our contributions from this sector, that is our waters, the sea, and so on, to our national life.
Madam, thank you so much. First of all, we have to recognize that those who are in our marine industry, we're talking essentially about the fishing community, represents something like 2 million Ghanaians. We're talking about virtually 10% of our nation which is engaged in fishing activities of one sort or another. So it's a very large constituency and a very large community that we're talking about. There are certain things that clearly we need to do. One, to make sure that we conserve our marine resources. The unbridled industrial exploitation of our seas is a matter that is going to come to haunt us unless we're prepared to make the courageous and principled decisions that we know to ban large-scale industrial exploitation of our seas. It's a difficult decision, but it's a decision that other countries have made, and they have benefited from the decision. They have allowed the marine stock to rejuvenate, revive, and grow. We need to do that. Secondly, those involved in the industry, a great deal of capacity building is necessary for them. You look at the old canoes that the majority of our fishing folk are using. In today's world, fiberglass and the rest, they have no access to it. A conscious effort has to be made to enhance the capacity of our fishing communities to be able to fish as modern fishing people do. So these are immediately matters that we have to situate at the very center of our planning and of our strategy for development. Thirdly, the various problems that this community has had, access to pre-mixed fuel, capacity to buy, outboard motors. These are matters that really by now we should have found solutions for. I am strongly of the view that we have to take politics and politicians out of matters affecting the fishing industry. Yes, they're an important community, but they're an important community for the development of our nation, not necessarily for the fortunes of any particular political party. It isn't right that political parties, chairmen of political parties, are the ones responsible for distributing pre-mixed fuel. Those are not things that advance. We have to take politics out of it and allow the fishing authorities and communities to be able to handle these matters themselves.
Thank you very much. We move to the NDC.
Thank you very much. Again, here I'll say we're doing a lot to improve our marine resources. The major problem with our marine resources has been overfishing and use of illegal methods. And that has emanated from our inability to police our waters. But let me also qualify that we can't do this in isolation as a country because we share the Gulf of Guinea with our neighbors. However, we protect our little corner of the Gulf of Guinea. If overfishing and poaching and illegal methods is allowed in other countries, then it won't mean much for us. But we'll do as much as we can in our little corner and persuade our neighbors to join us in doing so. So one of the things we've done is to equip the Navy. We came into government in a situation where the Navy had 2 old seagoing boats that took 48 hours to reach the end of our maritime boundary. We have, over the last 4 years, provided the Navy 7 brand new boats to increase their capacity to be able to police our waters. This has been done with a 2-pronged vision. One, to protect our oil and gas resources, but at the same time also to assist with protection of our marine resources. The other thing is to equip the police to take over from the Navy, because it is not a naval function to police marine resources. The soldiers are not trained for that. And so we're training a marine police. We've ordered the first vessel for them. The policemen who are training as marine police are currently in the Navy training how to operate vessels and how to, do the things that they have to do. So that is what we're doing. But one of the major problems threatening our marine resources is pollution. We're throwing all kinds of plastics into the sea. Fishes are, washing up on our shores with plastic in their bellies, and we're pumping raw sewage into the sea. We're taking steps to do that. We're setting up the new liquid waste treatment plant so that all liquid waste from the cities would go into the treatment plant, treated before they are discharged into the sea. The issue of plastics will take awareness. We're appealing to our people to stop throwing plastics all over the place. But there are some other measures we'll take in that regard. Well, let me also say that we're giving assistance to the artisanal fishers by giving them outboard motors, and we have a flagship project that is getting ready to take off under the CDB, and that is the provision of new landing sites along our beaches, where the fishermen would not only have a safe harbor to berth their canoes, but will also have cold store facilities at the place. They would have processing facilities to be able to process their fish and to be able to preserve whatever products they bring from the sea for the market. But we also have the inland fishing and aquaculture, which would help wean us of over-reliance on marine fishing and marine resources. And we're also encouraging that. We've increased our source of protein from aquaculture by more than 300%.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. CPP, please.
Thank you. The marine resource must be looked at not just as a place where we do fishing, but it can also be looked at for recreational purposes as well. Now, on the issue of fishing, yes, we have offshore fishing, of which the main issue is the regulation of illegal fishing and trawling. This, something has been done already, but I think we need to go further. We need to have an electronic tagging system that every ship that comes to fish in our ocean must possess one. From that alone, we will know the weights of the ships when they come in, the weights when they go out. We will also know if they're trawling as a pair together or if they're fishing singly. These will help regulate the fishing. Secondly, we need to make greater use of the estuaries. The estuaries can probably give our small-scale fishermen more income than going out to the sea with subsidized pre-mixed fuel for a jolly ride and coming back with very little catch. If we focus on the estuaries, there's possibilities for prawn fishing, for prawn industry, which can be as big as what they're doing now. And I believe we already see the prawns there. It's a matter of making sure that we improve it and make it something that they do more often in a technical way. The matter of recreational use of our marine resource. We all are aware that Ghana is one of the closest countries to zero longitude and zero latitude. If any other country was blessed with this geographical location, the mystery around it alone will create a tourist industry that everybody would come to see. It is not unusual to create something out of what is seemingly nothing. And I believe that our tourist industry could do a lot more to promote this geographic location and associate it strongly with Ghana, because there are already myths that if you're near that point, the water goes in the reverse centrifugal fashion down to the ocean, and that has power of reducing poisons from your body. Now, whether it does or not, we will collect our tourist revenue and our people will get money. Lastly, I think on the matter of marine fishing, marine resources, we must look at it as a resource for the future and handle it as such. Thank you very much. Now to the PNC, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are blessed in Ghana, but we tend not to know and make use of the mineral and natural resources that we do have. In other countries, they have been able to protect their water bodies in a way that fishing becomes a model for the youth, where many people engage into fishing, special boats are bought, and police are controlled and given at all the borders of the fishing areas. We in the PNC, when elected as government, we will review the existing fishing laws and block all the loopholes that tends to put our fisher flock at a disadvantage. We shall also explore other ways of reviving and revamping the fishing industry. In this direction, our administration will tackle and solve the perennial problems of non-availability of the pre-mixed fuel, other fishing inputs. We will work closely with the Ghana National Association of Farmers and Fishermen to explore ways of assembling our boats and manufacture fishing nets locally. We will make fishing farming a key model under the National Youth Employment Program to encourage the youth to engage in fish farming. We will also make sure that we protect the offshore, the areas in which fishing is allowed and areas in which fishing is not allowed. Our water bodies, in a way, can be transformed. Salt has been a major thing that we needed in Ghana. And at a long time, Ghana only produced salt for just local consumption. If properly taken care, we can create an industry where we can refine salt and export through our water and bodies. In a nutshell, we buy refined salt in Ghana at a very high price. When given the opportunity, we will make good use, channel some part of our water bodies in a way that it becomes productive to the economy, rather than only using it for fishing and other activities. Thank you.
Thank you all very much, gentlemen, for your responses.